Can you please close your eyes and start to think about what you really want to do in life? What is your biggest dream? What is your biggest challenge? Please take some time to think this over with your eyes closed. It can be something new you want to learn. Start a company. Sporting performance. A strong desire to do what you dream of. Something that you wanted to do for your whole life, but haven't done yet. Please open your eyes. If you have it, great. If you don't, it may come later during this talk. In any case, you can start to think about it. Hi, I'm Hans Bouscholte. I'm a former professional sailor. Now I'm a coach and entrepreneur. And my biggest challenge was to break a world record, a sailing world record between Africa and America, between Senegal and the Caribbean, between Dakar and Guadeloupe, a distance of 5,000 kilometers, a distance of 3,000 nautical miles. Of course, you can do this, you can sail this in a luxury sailing boat of 20 meters long, with a nice cabin, with a good kitchen, with comfortable beds. But our boat was a catamaran of 6 meters long. It's an official world record. And the world record is being officialized by the World Speed Sailing Record Council, so there are certain rules. The catamaran can be no longer than 6 meters. You have to be 2 people. It has to be an open catamaran. There can be no cabin. And you can have no outside assistance. Not a security ship who helps you or hands you over a steak around dinner time. The existing world record was set by a Frenchman, Daniel Pradel, and an Australian guy, Tony Laurent. They took 18 days and 22 hours to sail to Guadeloupe from Dakar. When they arrived, they had severe wounds on their hands, on their wrists, on their neck, on their ankles and on their feet. Daniel Pradel, the Frenchman, he had to undergo 16 skin transplantations, skin grafts. They took skin from both his legs and they put it on his wrists, on his neck and on his ankles. After that, he went straight to the mental hospital and he stayed there for several months. A German crew tried to break the record. They found the capsized catamaran of the Germans, but they never found the 2 Germans. A couple of years later, a Brazilian crew tried to break the world record. One of the 2 Brazilian crew died during the crossing. And the surviving skipper, he sailed with his dead companion next to him back to Brazil. So why do you want to break a record like this? Well, because it's tough, because it's dangerous, and because there is nothing more beautiful than to surf off these Atlantic waves with a catamaran of only 6 meters. That was my dream. Here you see our catamaran. You see how we sleep on one of the outriggers. For food, we take dehydrated food, powder, that you mix up with water and then you have a cold meal. We desalinate water from the Atlantic Ocean and we have a satellite beacon with us so the World Speeding Record Council can follow us and people at home can follow us on the internet. I couldn't find a Dutchman who was crazy enough to sail with me. The French, they love this type of endurance sailing, so I found a Frenchman instead. Gérard volunteered. His wife didn't agree, but that didn't stop Gérard. We left with beautiful weather off the coast of Dakar on a sunny afternoon. We had prepared for 1 year together for this venture. I had crossed the ocean 5 times, so I knew what was going to come. I knew our lives were at stake. Gérard had never crossed the ocean. For him, it was one big party. He was very optimistic. He said, oh, let's go, and he was dancing and having fun. Then it happened. During our first night, it was pitch dark. We have no electricity on the boat, no lights, and there was no moon, so we couldn't see anything. All of a sudden, a loud bang, and the boat stopped completely in the water, a full stop. We could have hit a whale. It could have been a big shark. It could have been a submerged container. Or it could have been a tree. We didn't know since we didn't see anything. The boat started to sail again, and apparently there was no damage. So we continued sailing. It was only in the morning that we saw that the boat was very low in the water. So we opened the security hatches, and water was coming out. So then we knew we had a serious problem. So we looked underneath the hull, and there were small cracks, not a big hole, but small cracks in the middle of the boat. We were pumping the water out, but actually there was more water coming in than we could pump out. So basically, we were sinking. So I started really worrying. I was afraid. I was afraid our record attempt was over. I was afraid that we would die if we would sink over there. So I said to Gerard, I think we should stop. I think we should stop this adventure. And Gerard looked at me with a big smile, and he said, no, Hans, we will resolve this. So that gave me courage, since he had such a big smile and he was talking so calm. We had special repair material that could fix the hull on the water. So we put it on the cracks. It was epoxy, and it hardens out underneath the water. Water was still coming in, but not so much. So we had to pump for 1 hour in the morning, every morning, and 1 hour every evening. So we had the leakage under control. We didn't solve it, but we had it under control. In the meantime, we were sailing fast, very fast. So we were still in time for the world record, and we had only one goal, and it was to break the world record. When you sail hard, when you work hard, it strains your body, it strains your hands, it strains your arms, your feet, your legs, all your body. The sun and the salt water bite your skin. And after a couple of days, we started to develop wounds on our hands, on our feet, on our neck, like the Frenchman and the Australian guy. And when we were at the middle of the trip, it started to hurt tremendously. Pus and blood was coming out. Working with our hands was almost impossible. So we took our satellite phone and we phoned a specialist doctor. And he said, listen guys, it's very simple. You have saltwater fever, which is made worse by a bacteriological infection which you probably got in Dakar. So if you continue, you run the risk of losing some fingers, a hand, or maybe even your arms when it gets worse. So I advise you to go to a hospital, or at least take antibiotics. Well, Gerard is a nurse in daily life. So he had taken 3 sorts of antibiotics. The advantage of antibiotics is that normally it works pretty fast. You can see some results within 12 hours. So the first antibiotics didn't work. The second sort of antibiotics didn't work. And the third sort of antibiotics worked. It stopped the infection. It didn't solve or close the wounds. No, the wounds stayed open. It stabilized the wounds. And the pain went away, or at least a little bit away. So we could continue. We didn't solve the problem with our hands, but we had it under control. Well, in the meantime, we were making good progress towards Guadeloupe, and we were still in record time. So everything was going great. And then at 3/4 of the trip, the last red bullet, a tropical storm came down from the North Atlantic, and it crossed our path. Well, this catamaran wasn't made for a tropical storm. It was made for beach sailing in the afternoon. 2 hours of beach sailing, then you go quickly back to the bar and you drink a nice beer. But no, the storm crossed our path and the waves were building and building. The wind was building. And at one point we had waves of 15 feet high, 5 meters high. Well, the catamaran is only 6 meters long, so the waves were as big as our small boat. You run the risk of capsizing. When such a huge wave comes over, it can capsize the boat, and if we capsize, we couldn't righten the boat anymore. So then the record attempt would be over, and then once again our lives would be at danger. So we couldn't capsize, and this nearly happened in In the first day of the storm, it nearly happened 5 times that we were close to capsizing with the big waves, with the huge waves. So what we did, we took the sails down and we put out a big sail in the water and we call it a floating anchor. Some sort of bucket that you put in the water, and it keeps the boat at the same place. It stabilizes the boat, so the waves don't have any grip on the catamaran. So it couldn't capsize anymore. But we were not making any progress anymore towards Guadeloupe. So the trip changed from chasing the world record towards survival. Now we were in survival mode. And then it happened in the second night of the storm. You have to imagine all these waves coming down, splashing down, crashing on the boat. The temperature got down also during the night. The temperature went far down and our body temperature started to go down. Gerard's body temperature went down and also his heartbeat went down. And in the middle of the night, his heartbeat was only 25. And with his heartbeat going down, his morale went down. He said, Hans, I'm not going to make it through this night. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to go to the end. Please throw me in the water, then it's over. I don't want to continue anymore. Well, we were in this together. And there was only one thing I wouldn't do, is that start with Gerard and finish with Gerard. So I was holding Gerard in my arms. I was talking to him, keeping him warm, telling him stories, making jokes. And it was in the morning, in the next morning, when the sun came up, the storm went down. And also the temperature, with the sunlight, the temperature went up. The temperature rose. And also the morale of Gerard rose. So what do you think? Did we make it? We made it to the finish. Yes. And during this whole trip, there had been no disagreement between us. Only mutual understanding, harmony, and helping each other. In the beginning, Gerard was stronger and he was helping me. In the end, I was a bit stronger and I could help Gerard. And that is why we survived. The original world record was 18 days and 22 hours. And we established a new world record in 15 days and 2 hours. When we sailed into Guadeloupe, it was like sailing into paradise. The first thing we did when we arrived in Guadeloupe was go to the hospital. Gerard had lost 15 kilos. I had lost 12 kilos. And thank God we didn't need any skin transplantations. No skin grafts. We were living on a pink cloud after the crossing. You can call it flow. Sports people call it being in the zone. I had prepared for this venture for 10 years. We had to go deep, really deep, deeper than ever before. This was the most difficult endeavor I had ever done in my life. We nearly died or lost our limbs. The reward was unimaginable. I felt like an emperor. I felt like Usain Bolt making his moves. I felt like a king. The fulfillment was unthinkable. Total satisfaction, gratitude, the accomplishment of a life mission. Respect towards life, respect towards the natural elements, respect for Gerard, respect for the people who have helped us, respect for myself. The result was an enormous life growth. Now I can face any challenge. Ain't no mountain high enough. Also my leadership transformed from being a directive leader towards being a sharing and participative leader. My career transformed from being a sailor who was always thinking about himself and about results into writing. I wrote 3 books, public speaking, inspiring people, sharing. Looking back at this challenge, I can say it was the most valuable challenge of my life. If I would die tomorrow, I can say my life was a success. That's why I urge you, each of you, to follow your heart, to do what you really want to do in life, even when it looks tough, even if it seems impossible. So think and feel about what you really want to do in life. It will transform your life.